So is Jake Leicht legit? Is his mentorship program legit? Is he legit as an investor? We're gonna give you the good, the bad, and the ugly truth about this guy in this video. Now, good to meet you. I'm Jake Leicht, and I'm gonna be going over the different reviews of Jake Leicht and whether I'm a scam and so forth. I've always been a guy that has not reviewed my own testimonials. I don't Google myself. I protect my energy, sanity, and well-being as much as possible. And I know that the more stuff you do and the more intentional you are and the more that you try, the more people are going to criticize you. And I'm totally okay with that, completely fine with it. But this idea came across my desk. I've had resistance to it for quite some time because, I think that with criticism, there's a little bit of truth behind any piece of criticism, even if it's the most extreme criticism. Google searches, this is something that jumps up on, especially now that AI does summarizing when it comes to different websites that do searches, whether it's DuckDuckGo, Google, any of those websites. And so this is something I'm not going to be able to get away from. Also, my mom reads my reviews and sometimes calls me about them. I always tell her not to pay much attention to them, but I do like it when my mom reads good stuff about me. We have good stuff about us, about me, about us, about the program. Now, I've got bad stuff on there, but one thing that you'll find when you do these reviews, there's a lot of the same stuff. And so some of it is warranted criticism. Some of it is, old timers that don't believe in investing into education. I'm totally fine with it. I'm gonna give you little bits and pieces of feedback because I had a great time taking these screenshots. And it's not as bad as I thought it would be, but there's a lot of truth to a lot of it as well. And so I'm gonna try to address some of that and give you the ultimate answer to whether Jake Leicht is a scam. So let's start with this first one. This is from Reddit, and this was posted, it looks like 5 years ago. Is the Flip Secrets Jake Leicht legit? Obligatory apology if this isn't the right channel. Does anyone have any experience or knowledge regarding Jake Leicht on his mentorship program, The Flip Secrets? I'm pretty skeptical as it's purely based on social media and the website only features testimonials before the sales of a home. So my SO, significant other, is debating enrolling. I want to make sure it's not a scam. My research shows that the person he learned from, Armando Montalongo, doesn't make his millions off of flipping homes, but off of people signing up for his mentorship program. The whole idea of purchasing and remodeling homes without personal investment sounds fishy. Any thoughts or comments are appreciated. If this is legit, I'd love to dive in, but my brain says to be cautious. And that's totally normal. Skepticism is warranted. I research stuff before I invest into it. And I, probably more than anyone, am a pretty big believer when it comes to like online access to people. Social media has allowed that to, business minds, philosophy minds, health minds, relationship minds. And so I'm a big investor into learning from other people's expertise. I feel like I would rather value my time rather than my money. If I can shorten the learning curve, I'm more than happy to pay $5,000, $10,000. I paid 50 and 60 grand for masterminds and things like that. I paid 80 grand for a coach that I only met with 4 times, and I got a lot out of that. So I believe in that, but that's how I came up, right? Probably before I got into real estate, I may have been one of these skeptics as well. So it's totally warranted. Now, a couple of things that I'm gonna address in this. Number one, that is who I learned from, Armando. He was on HGTV. I don't know if he makes money in real estate or not. I was featured in a Forbes article, and this was probably 10 years ago, that they were writing about the guy and they asked to interview me. And I thought it was my own, I thought it was my big shot to be able to make it about myself and the success that I was having. I was 2.5, 3 years into the business, and it was a hit piece. And they were trying to ask me questions, trying to get me to criticize the guy. I don't know him well. I was in contact with him when I was going through his program. The first 3 years of my real estate investing business, he would, direct message me and so forth and tell me good job and encourage me. I always thought he was a nice guy, but he did, if you read some of those articles and if you do some research online, there's good and bad about the guy. But I will tell you this, I started with a seminar with him. I was in a room full of 400 or 500 people. I did not know anything about real estate investing, and 13 and a half years later, I've done over 1,000 flips. And the basis of what I learned and creating my initial momentum in this business came from him. So whether he makes his money from seminars, whether he makes his money from real estate, that doesn't matter to me at this point because it worked for me. Now, a lot of people will disagree with that. I'll never badmouth the guy. There's a lot of people that like him, a lot of people that don't like him. That's my thoughts about Armando. But as far as the idea of purchasing and remodeling homes without personal investment, it does sound fishy to the general public for sure. It sounded fishy to me before I got into this business, but I've done, again, over 1,000 flips. 95% of them I put $0 out of my own pocket. This is what we teach our students and clients, and partners and everything in between to do, and they all do it with success. Think of it as borrowing money from a bank, right? These banks have millions upon millions, tens, hundreds of millions of dollars that they will lend to us for mortgages and things like that, where we put a down payment on. Private lenders are the same thing. They may not have the financial capacity as a Bank of America or Wells Fargo, but a lot of them have 10, if not $100 million funds, where their intention is to put it into deals that are beat up. Fixer-upper properties, deteriorated properties that people like me are buying at a discount with the intent to renovate. So they lend us a percentage of the purchase price as well as a percentage of the rehab. And what I teach and what I practice is the idea of having a gap funder, which is a second lender. So any down payment that's required on the first lender's loan, the hard money lender, the private lender's loan, that comes from a second position lender that we partner with. So the first lender gets paid back their money when we sell. The second lender also gets paid back their money. Both of them make whatever interest or profit we've negotiated, and everything that's left over comes to us. So I've done this numerous times. That's the way I learned it. That's essentially the best way to do it. It's a system of leverage, but instead of being reliant on banks, it's about being reliant on each other. And because real estate investing and real estate in general is a numbers game, we are very accurate, at least in my group, in the way that I teach people. We're very accurate and we're very predictable with what our numbers are doing. It's about reading trends and then partnering together to put the money together and the brain power together to be able to improve the value of a house. If you're gonna flip it, you can resell it and take all the profit out at the end of the day after everyone's paid back. Again, if you look at our group, we've done this thousands upon thousands of times. I mean, I've done it 1,000 times myself. But let's break down some of the comments. I mean, this is from Reddit. Remind me never to go on Reddit again. Reddit is one of my least favorite places for probably a few obvious reasons, but also a lot of complaining about stuff going on Reddit. But again, with complaints and criticism, there's always a hint of truth. So let's see if we can sniff it out. All right, this guy says, you don't need to pay for a mentorship program. The information is all out there for free. Start with biggerpockets.com. Listen to their podcast, an awesome amount of info. Now, I personally really like Bigger Pockets. When I was early on in my career, I was sharing a lot of value as I was learning. That was my strategy in growing my business. I shared a lot on Bigger Pockets. They actually censored me on it because they try to sell courses and stuff like that too, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but they were at that time. But I like it. It's a wealth of information. I just know that for me personally, once I started paying people to work with me one-on-one or paying for people to work with me in a group and getting into these programs, I could spend 6 months learning something on Reddit and then going out and doing trial and error. But then once I started investing into other people's time, I would turn that 6 months into a couple days because they've already gone through it for a decade and they know the workaround to it. So there's a lot of old timers, especially in the real estate space, especially online. Also, it's the same thing if you go to some of these meetup groups that are in person, where they say you'll never need to go out there and learn from these online people. Like, I learned it all myself. Well, they learned it in the 50s and the 60s when the internet didn't exist. But that is something that's very common, not only with the real estate space, but just in general. When you ask people, there's a lot of folks out there that have never done like technical education or specific education based on online stuff or, with social media allowing us access to different people that are experts in their space. A lot of folks don't believe in that. They don't believe in paying for info. Now, oftentimes it's because a lot of them value their money more than their time. I personally value my time more than my money. And with that being said, now a lot of them value their money more than their time, meaning they're willing to burn 6 months rather than paying $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, even $50,000 to learn something in a couple of days. I would rather pay $5,000, $10,000 to learn something in 2 hours that would take me 2 months to do on my own, because there's an opportunity cost of not knowing how to do it. But you get this a lot, and this is like the decades old argument within online education, guru type stuff. And I've always been reluctant to call myself a guru, but finally I gave in and rolled over. I suppose I am a guru. Yeah, as much as it makes me cringe to talk about it, but this feedback is relatively normal. And you'll see a lot of it. I saw a lot of it with my family and friends when I first decided that I was gonna go and invest into a seminar thing from somebody online or from someone on the infomercial initially. Expect that type of feedback. It's two different trains of thought. There's nothing that's right or wrong. It's just a matter of valuing time or money and what's gonna be most important for somebody. Again, my opinion is I value time more than money. I think that money replenishes itself. You can always make more money. You can't create more time. All right, this guy says, all scams. Better to ask questions on Bigger Pockets or network with people who already do it. I do already do it, by the way. But the hardest part of flipping is getting money to do it, in my opinion. Don't waste any money on these. Now, I would agree with part of what this guy said. To most people on the outside looking in, the hardest and most challenging, the most difficult, and kind of the most inconceivable part is getting the money to do it. And that's what we do really well. We talk about OPM a lot in marketing and on social media because it's proven to be what people have the most questions about. And then within about 48 hours of getting into my program, they realize that the money part is relatively simple. Some would argue that it's even easy. The challenging part is getting out of our own way so we can implement systems to generate leads, put properties under contract, and kind of learn the discipline of money management and time management when you get thrown into a business as a CEO and just coordinating the different aspects of it. Again, that's also not terribly difficult, but there's kind of a bait and switch, and I'll admit that. Because in my marketing up front, I do talk about OPM the most because that's what people want to know about. But I know that that's not the most important. That's the easiest part of the business. I guess this is a take my word for it moment. But in my opinion, the most challenging part is getting out of our own way so we can implement systems into something that probably makes us a little bit nervous because we've never done it before. That's why systems are important, but implementing those systems can make people real nervous. So someone else said, facts, scams, been there, done that, got screwed, research, save your money, avoid these types of people and programs at all costs. I can also empathize with that because when it comes to online gurus and stuff like that, there's a lot of people, like I've had people that have gone into my program, never, done any piece of real estate, but then took my content and tried to sell it on a secondary market for like $1,000. I mean, there's people that do that all the time. We saw one guy that had never flipped a house that said he had done 400 flips. So things like that, I mean, that's the unfortunate reality. And that's part of the reason why I never wanted to be a guru, because people sometimes they'll read a book, and if they're charismatic and can get in front of a camera and teach based on reading some stuff out of a book, people can teach courses that are very, very attractive. So, there's some good people out there. There's some bad people out there. I'll tell you that most of the people at the top of the game, the household names, if you're looking at my program and comparing it to other people's programs, they're all good people and they all do this business and they do it well. I've ran into a lot of them. I've talked to a lot of them. They know what they're doing. Take that with a grain of salt, but there's also a bad name with online stuff because there's a lack of accountability with a lot of people. Let's keep going. So I read this one, this guy, Bob Williamson. I know Bob well. He's a student in our program. He's a long-winded guy, and he actually gave me a call. And this was a few years ago, I want to say, but he gave me a call, real mad. There's been a couple people that have done that, where they're just livid. I'm like, hey, Bob, what's going on? Bobbio, what's going on? He said, have you seen what they're saying about you on Reddit? I said, no, well, I've heard, but it's whatever. He's like, I just put a half hour. I was so mad, but I didn't want to seem mad. And he put all these things, like the summary of what, the program's all about. And I just read it about 10 minutes ago. I read it on Reddit, and it's actually pretty funny. Bob is a great guy. I like him a lot. The responses that he got, no, I'm not interested in the clear coat. What a used car salesman. I feel like I'll walk into my house and Bob Williamson will be waiting with a PowerPoint in my living room. Brother, that doesn't make you skeptical. I don't know what will. That probably wins the internet for the day. That's pretty funny. Bob, you've got a very household name. You get this. This is what Reddit's all about. It's a lot of people dunking on each other. And while it can be fun, trust me, I've had burner Twitter accounts before and talk trash on politics and stuff like that. It's not a good use of time, because once you start really being critical of things just to find a reason to be critical and make fun of people, there is a manifestation of that in our own lives. I truly believe that. So again, I try to protect my energy, and that's done me well to this part. As a side note, this Reddit thread started, or I guess it was put on my radar. This was probably 3 or 4 years ago. For the first 4 years of our program, I was the coach. I was also the janitor, the sales manager, the accountant, the email writer. Like, I did everything. And just learning about people and what the actual process was that limits most regular people into starting a business. And also for the people that were doing a handful of flips a year or had a little bit of experience, I really wanted to learn what the secret sauce, I guess you would call it, would be to taking someone from a property a month to a property a week. And there's two different things with each of those aspects. With folks that are just starting out, it's usually up here. It's a mindset thing. I give everybody every system that works. but implementing it is scary because it's new. New things for me are scary as well. But when it comes to people that are scaling their businesses, right, there's kind of two sides of the house with how we teach people and the process that we bring people through in our mentorship program. But with the experienced people and getting them to scale, it's something completely different. It's not necessarily up here as to a lack of confidence and a lack of comfort and getting out there and making moves, but instead it's more so a matter of ego. A lot of times people are unwilling to put aside what they know to build their foundation the right way, to be able to add that ego back on top and really make a unique business. So there's two different things. I mean, there's systems that we put in place for both of these that have proven to work. The reason that the Reddit thread was started is we thought he was going to be an all-star student, and he was about 3 months in. He had bought 4 properties. He was set to make like $270,000. And back then, and we don't do this anymore, we had a payment plan in-house where somebody would do 4 different payments. And the guy missed his 3rd payment at day 60 or something like that. And he called in, he said, hey, look, I'm going through some stuff with my personal family and so forth. Can I get a 1-week delay on the next payment? I said, sure. So we gave him a 1-week delay. That 1 week turned into 2. And then at 2, we told him we're going to have to shut off his access to the course just as everything goes through. This is when I started hiring customer service people and so forth. And the guy kind of wasn't really responding to us too much. The next day, my team started getting calls at 4:45 a.m. of a guy that was manic, wouldn't tell us his name, and started just cussing everyone out, saying that we're responsible for his life blowing up into shambles. And the guy was on his way to being a success story. And he, cussed me out, cussed Chelsea out, cussed Grant out, cussed Tatiana out, cussed all of our team out. And we finally said that we just didn't want him. We didn't want to deal with it. Like, he didn't have to make any more payments. Like, we're good. And manically, the guy told us that he was going to go on Reddit and cause a scene because his number one goal in life was to make sure to inflict as much pain on our company and in turn on me as possible. So the guy created 4 different Reddit accounts. They were all created within like 10 minutes of each other. And he was going in for a couple hours making posts from the different username to himself. One acting as somebody that had been cussed out by me, one acting as a couple that had a brand new baby on the way, and I ruined their baby's life and they didn't know what they were going to do, like just these extreme things. Now, at the time, I got really upset about that. This was at a time where I did actually care what people thought of me. I've learned that there's nothing I can do to control that sense, but we complained to Reddit and we asked them to look at these accounts that were brand new that were saying stuff. And I think they booted him off, but he's since created another few more names. He's emailed a few times. I've had to put a restraining order on him. He's emailed my wife. He's called and texted my wife, and so that's when we had to put a cease and desist and a restraining order, and fortunately, that hasn't happened since. But it's part of what I deal with this kind of stuff. I mean, we can have 5,000 people in the group, and not everybody's going to be happy, and that's fine. All right, I'm also in the program, laughing at the people here who talk smack but aren't actually in the program. I was the type to research on my own and take up free content, but compare that to having access to a mentor who's been there and done that. Use all your free info yourself. It still won't give you confidence to jump in, not knowing what you're still missing, a piece of information that could cost you thousands. I've done more in real estate this past 3 weeks in the program than in 2 years collecting free content, just saying. And I have no idea what program you got into with Jake, but I certainly didn't pay $20,000. So I'll tell you this, back in the day, gosh, the program was $5,000, and then it was $7,000, then it was $10,000 and $12,000. It went all the way up every 3 months to the highest was $30,000. And then there came a point where we kept increasing the price point because we had too many clients and I only have 24 hours in the day and I was doing everything. There came a point in 2023 where we had students that were doing better than me. I mean, they don't have as many flips or projects or properties or wholesales as me, but they were clearly better than me. And by the time they're 13, 14 years in, they're going to be light years ahead of me, that were doing well, that could communicate it well, that showed an interest in helping, and they were actively helping within our community anyway. So I brought a bunch of people in, trained them on how I teach people, trained them on what I've seen and the different things. And it was about a year-long process. But since then, our program is a year-long program, and it's anywhere between $15,000 and $30,000. We also have scholarships and tuition assistance. So it kind of varies from person to person. But back in the day, it was up to $30K for the same program that's down as low as $15,000 today. So we'll keep going. Dude, you sound programmed. then nah man, totally legit, just wholesale to deal with them and started my first flip as well. They're totally about it, and I'm the cautious POC type as well. Not sure what that means, not trying to get censored from YouTube, so we're gonna keep moving on. Flipping without using your own money, in theory, is completely legit. I agree. But someone running a class to teach you how to do it sets off all the red flags. I also agree. Would you learn something in the class? Probably. Is it worth the fee? Most likely not. Now, I also agree to an extent with that, because there's a lot of people out there that do want to learn stuff in theory, but the challenge is putting it into execution, because up here and because they've never done it before, it's very, very uncomfortable. So a lot of people, and I think this is a problem with folks learning how to learn. We're not taught to learn how to learn well. I think learning with execution is what is invaluable. Learning just for the sake of learning, it might make you an academic, but it won't get you reps on the field. You know, you want to be in the arena actually playing the game in order to learn these theories and put them into process. So join your local REIA and meet other like-minded people. It may cost $75 a year or something like that, but the knowledge and networking is worth it. I would agree with the same thing with something like my group or some of the top groups out there. You have, I think, a lot more experienced folks. And in my group, it's not a local real estate meetup where there's 15 people. We have 5,000 people actively helping each other. But I somewhat agree with this person as well. All right, no, this is not legit. I believe this is one of the fake profiles. You have no business flipping houses if you know nothing about construction. I know nothing about construction. I've flipped over 1,000 successful houses. Mostly because it's prime grounds to get ripped off by contractors. I avoid flipped houses at all costs when looking for a home. They're lipstick, all show, and often issues behind the wall. Now I would say that's incorrect. Now, look, some house flippers do a poor job at this stuff. So I can't say it's completely incorrect. There's always a little bit of truth around all of this kind of stuff. But when it comes to flipped houses, if someone's buying them, there's checks and balances in the process. When we buy a property, we have an inspection period. If I'm buying a beat up property, I can go inspect it, bring contractors to the house. I can have my lenders inspect it. I could even get a home inspector, which I don't do, by the way. But when someone buys the house from you at the end of the day, they have to get a home inspection and they have to get an appraisal from their bank, ensuring that the quality of the home is up to standard, or else the bank that's giving them the loan won't give them the loan. And so that's our checks and balances. We also, with our contractors, put contracts in place that say that if there's anything that doesn't pass inspection, you have to come back and fix it. So our budget with the contractor is contractually obligated to pass all inspections. So I would say that if people are doing it in a different way, I would say that's not legit, and they're gonna lose money and self-select themselves out of the game if they're doing it incorrectly. And a lot of flippers out there, some of the I call them the bottom feeders, that are just getting into the business from YouTube University or just going into the chat groups, and that's how they learn. A lot of them do try to cut corners, but typically when they do that, they can't sell a house, and that self-selects them out of the business for the long term. This one, don't do it. I paid like it's not legit. Don't sign up for this ripoff. There are so many other people on Instagram that provide the same stuff for $500. He's a and will ignore your messages or be rude to you when you ask questions. It's not a mentorship. It's all pre-recorded videos with YouTube links. And some of the advice he gives is terrible. For example, he tells you not to use an inspector when purchasing your flips. Instead, use a contractor. That's correct. This is terrible advice. That's not correct. Cost me 45 grand. But yes, Jake is an uptight, weird not waste 20K on this rip-off course that other people sell for $250. He's really a person as well. Cheesy, corny smile. I can agree with that. I don't like my smile. Underneath, just a tense fuck Jake Leicht. No, that's nice. Now, this person 2 years ago is saying that he paid. This isn't a real person. 2 years ago, the price was 30K. 21 months ago, we brought it down to 10K for a 6-month program, at least for the entry-level program, 15K for the year-long program. Right now, we run as a 15K program, plus an exclusive mastermind, but that's not the price of it either. But this is somebody that clearly doesn't like me, and that's okay. But I'll tell you what, our mentorship, I have coaches. We actually have over 10 every week, group coaching sessions, as well as a mandatory one-on-one coaching session per week. And my team does that. I don't have questions sent out to me directly. And so this is an interesting piece of feedback. It may just be somebody that doesn't like me, and it may be a student that's amplifying things. But one thing that I'll say is I do give the advice of not using an inspector when you're under contract on a property. What we do is we get an inspection period, usually for 7 to 14 days when we put a property under contract. And even though it's called an inspection period, we don't have to bring a home inspector to the house. Home inspectors go in, a lot of times they're alarmists. I would prefer to have a contractor who didn't get home inspecting license over the course of a weekend, but instead put years into getting that GC license. I would rather have them go in there, let me know what they need to do to get it up to speed, and then I let them know what finishes we need to put onto the property, such as what color paint, what type of flooring, what type of countertops, what color cabinets, what kind of pulls on the cabinets. I just model what's working in the area and what the trend is. But we get 5 different contractors to go to a house and give us a bid to pass all inspections and do the things that I ask as far as finishes. And then if the numbers are consistent with each other with the contractor bids, then we choose the best one. And that may not always be the cheapest one, but we choose the one that we resonate with the most. And then we put a contract in place with them that says they're doing all this stuff and they're also ensuring that it passes all inspection at this budget. Now, there's a few more things in our systems that we put into place with contractors, particularly about how we pay the contractors. This is 100% correct. I don't send home inspectors. I don't teach to send home inspectors. I teach to send numerous contractors. I don't know that he followed that advice or put that system into place. Flipping houses and investing in real estate, especially doing construction, it's not perfect. And when people have made errors in my group, or just when I meet people on the streets, when there's been errors made, when it comes to construction, it's because number one, they advance a bunch of money to a contractor, or number two, they don't put a contract in place with them. Number three, they don't communicate to them. This needs to pass all inspections from the get-go. Again, we put systems in place for the communication part. We give you the contract. We also put a system in place on how to pay the people. But I guess some of my friends may agree with this guy saying that I'm a and I suppose I would agree as well. Although my wife may disagree that I have a corny, cheesy smile. I'm definitely not a tense idiot though. I'm pretty relaxed. Maybe I'm a but not tense. But I'll give you one more corny, cheesy smile, my friend. Damn, thanks bro, almost fell for it. And then the same guy, nah, don't. You'll see other people on IG way cheaper and way better. He has a used car salesman vibes, very rude when you ask for help. It's all just a scam to make you think he's a comprehensive plan when it's basically just videos. We do have videos. There are numerous sections. Our mentorship program is consisted of a masterclass, which is quite a bit of content. It goes from A to Z. It's every system you're implementing. It's also, in addition to the masterclass library, it's also one-on-one coaching for 6 weeks. So you have an accountability coach based on your goals. That's how you customize the program, whether you want to wholesale, co-sale, BRRR, flip houses. There's a lot of different exit strategies when it comes to this stuff. We have our group coaching. It's 2 to 3 times a day, 6 days a week. We don't do group coaching on Sundays, but then it's also the network. So yeah, there are videos, right? I've pre-recorded a lot of stuff with our system through our membership site. That's definitely not everything that it is. But anyway, like every other real estate IG influencer offers, but for 50 times cheaper. I think that we're one of the least expensive in the industry, but that's cool too. And then someone said, save me some bread. Well, some people get into it. Some people read these and don't get into it. We have a money back guarantee. We also have a guarantee that says that in 60 days, if you don't have control of a property, you have it under contract, a profitable property at that, then we give you a property as well as your money back. So, some people are scared and they're looking for reasons not to, which is understandable. And some people say that, hey, if other people can do it, I can too. That's just the way it goes. I'm not for everybody. I guess my corny, cheesy smile and my tense personality may turn some people off, and that's fine. All right, this is one of the guys that reached out to me. I've worked with him as a business partner as well as a real estate investor. This is Tyler. And he says, hey, this is legit. He may have learned from so-and-so, but he's down to earth, step-by-step approach. It's worlds above. I made this guy a lot of money as one of my real estate agents and as a business partner too. But he says something nice, and then someone says, hi, Jake. And people are laughing at it and they're saying, Tyler is Jake's best friend, LOL. That's what you get on Reddit. People are there to dunk on each other. And it's kind of funny, but I'm gonna wash my hands clean of this after this video is done, that's for sure. Well, actually, another thing about Tyler, he's another guy that called me. He said, Jake, I hope you're okay with this, but I'm pissed off because people are bad-mouthing you on Reddit. I just found it and blah, 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 blah. Calm down, Tyler, it's okay. I have people try to extort me online. People try to make fake profiles with my name and try to get people to send Amazon gift cards and Bitcoin and stuff like that. I mean, it's part of the game. I really enjoy this game though, so I'm down to take those arrows in my back as I pave, I guess, this route. And gosh, we're rated #1 school, real estate investing program / school on Trustpilot, 570 5-star reviews, something like that. Some people like us, some people don't. That's okay. You can see me sweating while I read this. Anyway, let's go on. All right. So one individual out of the dozens and dozens replies here that Jake and his program, just one of you point to me an address or MLS or lot, block, and section number of a property you flip. Do my due diligence to see if this is for real. Now, I'll tell you one thing that I learned. Back in the early days, this is about 7 years ago when I first started doing social media, I started, because people would call me out, they say, I think you're lying. I think this is, Photoshop and that kind of stuff. So I started putting my addresses for the flips I was doing on social media. There's one time I was doing a live and it got real hot and heavy, I would say. So some would argue that it's ugly. I used to love it because it kept me on my toes, and I like when people talk trash. It's like a love language for me. But I gave people the addresses, and then the next morning I got a call that says somebody went into one of those houses with an axe and cut up, I have pictures of it, broke the countertops, cut up the flooring. They just vandalized this property. Since then, I don't post stuff, at least publicly, on the addresses for my deals. But I'll tell you one thing, and this was something for me as well. I would say my first 3 years, and I see this right now with our students as well. But when you're not used to making money, which I wasn't, I had $700 in my bank account. When you're not used to making money, and then you start making money, and you make your first 6 figures, and then potentially make your first 7 figures in this business, I was real scared for other people to know that I was making money and doing well. I had this weird connotation with money. And I find the same thing with a lot of our students and clients, is that as they're doing the house and they got it under contract, they're a couple days away from closing on a deal, they're real pumped up about sharing how much money they could make. But then once they make that money, ask them for a video testimonial or for them to do a public review talking about that, people get real weirded out by it. And again, I did too, until one day I just kind of cut the cord and let it go. I let it rip. But my guess, and I hope that the Google AI doesn't penalize me for this, is that people don't like the IRS getting into their business, and then also a lot of times when you start making money, people treat you a little bit differently. I know that was the case with me. It continues to be the case with me. Admittedly, that's one of the challenging parts of what we do, is people are very private about the amount of money that they make, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. This program uses false advertising, is misleading, teaches illegal methods of procuring funding. Is advertises requiring much less time than it actually does. The quality and content of the videos is really poor. Would not be surprised if a class action lawsuit is started. This program is just really, really low quality in my opinion. Now, I'll tell you one thing, the videos are of me and I'm the one that films them. There's PowerPoint presentations, that kind of stuff. I would agree that the quality isn't that great when it comes to the videos in our course, but it's not illegal, misleading, to procure private money, nor is it illegal or misleading to procure a gap funder. That's been happening in real estate investing. They're called first position liens and second position liens, LIEN, if you want to do research on it. But that's pretty normal in real estate since before social media even started. Class action lawsuit, we have numerous attorneys that are in our program as clients. I have very good attorneys. We've never been threatened or even talked to like there was going to be a class action lawsuits. This may or may not be one of the guys that created a bunch of different accounts. Again, not everybody is suited to be a CEO, and that's fine as well. My wife's grandpa once told me, he was a real estate investor too. I met him after I started doing real estate. So my wife's grandpa was a real estate investor, rest in peace, Bob. But I met him after I started getting into real estate, and I was probably a year and a half into it. And I was trying to tell my close friends, you got to do this. A lot of people I grew up with weren't necessarily doing stuff that was legal, right? Maybe they were doing stuff in the street that ended up putting them behind bars and things like that. But a lot of the most charismatic, smartest, most brilliant minds I had ever met, but they were doing the wrong things. And I remember, like with my close friends, I would shout from the rooftops, like, you can do this and it's clean and it's a legit way to make money. And you make more money than selling drugs. And I remember nobody would have, people really wouldn't take what I was saying into consideration. And it really frustrated me. And I told my wife's grandpa that. He said, Jake, that's fine, because tenants need landlords and landlords need tenants. You have to coexist. You're reliant on each other. So business owners, right, are reliant on consumers, and consumers are reliant on business owners. So everybody can't be a business owner. Not everybody has that mindset, and everybody can't be a consumer. That's the way that the economy works. That's the way how life works. There's some people that create the product and some people that consume the product, right? There's creators and consumers. So there's landlords and there's renters, and so that, that's the way it goes, right? It ain't for everybody. Business isn't for everybody. And, the folks, the renters may think we're a little bit psycho, and some of us may even agree with that, because it takes a lot of accountability to do what we do. All right, now let's go over to Bigger Pockets. Bigger Pockets is cool. I like it. I think it's very valuable as a message board. I really gave Bigger Pockets a good shot my first few years in the business. I didn't learn as much from that as, getting coaches and mentors and so forth. But there's good people there. There's a lot of old timers that are absolutely against paying for information. And that's fine too, because it's been around since like the early stages of social media. But this person said, "Hi, need feedback about Flip Secrets by Jake Leicht. He teaches flip houses using OPM and fees between 11 and 15 grand. Is it worth joining this program? Thank you." All right, this guy said, "Because I'm starting out, I've been self-funding my gap, which limits the size and scope of the projects I can take on. That means instead of getting a gap funder to do his down payments, he's doing it himself. On my first flip, I didn't follow the rules Jake outlined in his calculator and in his course. So when I started the project, my projected profit was just under 15K. That's way too low. We don't mess around with 15K. Everything was finished. I made just over 2K. And that's the reason we want at least 10% of our resale value as net profit from a projection standpoint. So if something ever happens, we're not having our backs against the wall. There's a system in place for that. I don't like a 15K flip. I wouldn't do it. It's not worth my time or the risk. My second project's anticipated profit is 30K. I followed the rules on this property compared to an initially projected profit of 35. That's much better. We just started my third project. Profit is projected to be 20. I also learned how to qualify better. Good, right? You get better and better as you go. Yesterday, we reviewed a profit that my realtor was touting as having a potential of 100 grand. When I did my own numbers, it came up closer to 40K if it can sell. However, there isn't a strong sales history, so we're gonna pass on it. That right there is the best thing that I can give somebody from my group. Not only do you know what a good deal is, but it's equally important that you know what a bad deal is. And even though a real estate agent may tout a property as having $1 million worth of profit, their self-interest is typically on getting a commission, whereas our self-interest is being profitable upon the resale. And that's something that I teach and implement systems into place on how to differentiate between the two of those outcomes. I have another deal lined up that I plan on purchasing in the next few days. A neighborhood with strong sales history. I should be able to gross 38K. No school or class will replace value of getting started and learning your trade. The Flip Secrets gave me the confidence and motivation to go. As I make mistakes, I understand why Jake teaches rules. Yes, my friend, there are rules to the game. But I also understand no one will ever be able to tell you 100% of what your experience would be. I also agree with that because I could give everybody the theory. We can give you coaches. We can give you advice on what to do in certain situations. But there's a part of it that's our own voice and how we create rapport with people, how a conversation goes, things like that, that will make everybody's experience unique. Also, everybody has different goals. And so this is a really good piece of feedback, right? It's not all, roses. He did admit that he didn't follow the rules, and on one that he didn't follow the rules on, he only made a couple grand. That's not a flip that is worth my time, in my opinion. But the key is to keep going, right? The first one isn't the end to everything. It's not the one thing that's gonna make you into a millionaire. It's your initial start into the game. I hope you take heed to what this guy is saying. Now, one of the Bigger Pockets moderators said, most gurus are scams in that they take your money and don't really offer much in return. Even as Evan started, the bigger the guru, the more likely that is. That said, if you can gain some basic knowledge and take away a few good nuggets from a course as a newbie, then it could be a good starting point. Of course, the best starting point is doing what you're doing here, engaging in our community. Yeah, there's two things here that I agree with. Number one, real estate investing is a level 10 opportunity. It's not a level 2 or level 3. When I first started in business, I tried to create a virtual assistant business. And that, even if I did everything perfect, I probably couldn't make in a year what I can make in one flip. So real estate, just applying the same amount of effort as other businesses, has much higher potential for profitability, which in turn helps you create a lifestyle by design. I truly believe that. I don't agree that the bigger the guru, the most likely the scam is, because the bigger the guru, the more skepticism and the more compliance that we have to go through. Like I have to be very compliant with the government, both state and federal, and I have to make sure that any claims that we make are provable. Now, as far as taking away a few little nuggets as a newbie, I completely agree with that. I've often told people, I bought courses for $5,000, for 20 grand. I bought programs for 6 months for 40 grand. I mean, I've done a little bit of everything. And some of them were excellent and some of them were terrible. But there's never been something in real estate investing where I haven't at least been able to get one little thing out of that I can apply to my business and at least get me one or two more deals. With the average flip, between $50,000 and $60,000 in net profit. If I pay 40 grand for something, I just do one more deal forever. Like I get my money's worth out of it. If I do one more deal a year, I make 50 grand a year on that. Okay, so I agree with that because real estate investing is a level 10 vehicle. I also agree with his strategy of saying, no, you never want to do that with the gurus. Best thing you can do is stay here, consume my product, and pay for a pro account. All right, this guy says, hey, I'm halfway through the class and say I'm very pleased with what I'm getting. I'm actually getting real information that's actually useful. I would recommend Jake's Flip Secrets. And then removed by moderators. Don't know what that means. He probably put some contact information and then said thank you. Well, I appreciate that. There's one person that said something nice. All right, this guy said, I cannot speak to Jake's program per se. I'll be fully transparent that I always have a healthy dose of skepticism for anyone that's selling courses. I do as well. You should have skepticism. That's fine. There's certainly a value to being spoon-fed information. For the most part, though, lenders are generally not hidden. There's an entire tab of lenders on BiggerPocket. Realtors are the same. Both of these groups tend to do what more businesses, and so both of these groups tend to want more business, and so they're not terribly hard to find. Yes, I agree with that. Lenders and real estate agents are really easy to find everywhere. Contractors are hyper-local. Typically as a flipper, once I find some good ones, I don't share them with others because I don't want them to be too busy for my products. I also agree with that. Again, I have a bias against gurus, as do I. The reluctant person that's accepted that he's a guru is agreeing with him. It's really hard for me to say that, can you tell? I have a bias against gurus. The bigger social media following, the more skeptical I am. I got a following for a reason, but I don't count my experience. Again, I have a bias against gurus. Oh, I'm a guru too, and I have bias against people like me. And that's 100% transparent. Bigger the social media following, the more skeptical I am. I've been pushing content for 7 years. And I have a pretty decent following on social media. It's not crazy high, but I never equate social media following to experience. I mean, I've just made an intentional effort to share stuff on social media. But if the cost is fairly nominal, maybe under a couple grand, and you have no experience in real estate, including owning your own home and hiring contractors for that, then it's likely worth it. I would say that when I look for people to invest in or people's programs, I typically go for the most expensive because if someone's been around for a while, and they're willing to charge a higher amount, then I usually know that it's good, especially because people have a reputation to maintain. There's different opinions on that. We also don't just have a self-paced course. We have a full-fledged program that's customizable, that has active people working as coaches and so forth. I would always start with a deep assessment of where you feel you don't have adequate knowledge, attend a couple of meetings, talk to others about what you want to do, where you feel your holes are, and have them help you for free to at least refine the list so that you can talk to Jake and ask how he will help with your specific gaps in knowledge. That was pretty good advice. Now, I don't agree with the dollar threshold. This was only 7 months ago. I was gonna say he may have wrote this a couple years ago, but with the other things, I never have people help me with stuff for free. I feel like that's a devalue to someone. And if I'm taking somebody's time that's good at what they do, I'd like to put a monetary value on it because I like to show people that I respect their time. I would not recommend if you have somebody that's done 100 flips or 1,000 flips, I would never, and you have access to them, I would always offer to pay them for their time. Even if you can't pay them what their hourly rate is, it at least shows them that you value their time based on what you're trying to offer them. That's what I would recommend. Jerry here, what are you hearing about Jake Leicht Flip Secrets? Any comments about network of lenders, realtors, and contractors? Is anyone participating in their mentoring program? So I think that's probably one of them that sparked up some of this feedback. Hey, thanks so much for the insight. Mind telling us your approximate profit on your first flip and what you're estimating to make on your second? Asking because it may help some of us determine the value of a program like this. I can tell you in our group, the average amount that somebody makes on a flip is $50,000. This is account closed. I found this twice. Somebody was kicked out, so they probably came on just to trash me. But agreed, in general, I would say it's not worth joining. It's a huge waste of money. It's overall extremely poor, but I'm happy to answer specific questions. And this account closed a year ago also said, I signed up for this in August, have lots of feedback and advice. Any questions, reach out to me directly. You can't please everyone, I suppose. All right, then this one. I don't see what a 10K flip program could teach you that's not already here or on YouTube. I can't comment on this course because there's no reason to pay anyone to learn how to use OPM. You either get private lending, which is based on the deal and experience, or you use your own funds. I agree with that last sentence. This guy's name is definitely not in our program, but this person also has made almost 18,000 posts on BiggerPockets. I mean, people in my program probably wouldn't go over to other programs. They probably lean into our network. This person has a habit of leaning into this network. So I totally understand that. This is the type of stuff that we get in this business. I would tell you ultimately that if you're seeing this video because you're trying to get an idea of whether this is the real deal or not, lean into our guarantee, right? We put our money where our mouth is. And if you don't have success within 60 days, we'll give you your money back and give you a property. We call it a silver platter property just for you, exclusive for you. It's a call my bluff guarantee. I hope you lean into it, but I hope this helps. I'm not going to look at Reddit or BiggerPockets again for another 6 months, but it's been fun, and I'll talk to you on the other side. Hope you're having a great day. Happy investing.